Apple is about to do something they have never done before, and it is not the foldable. The iPhone 18 Pro is coming in September 2026, and the story everyone is telling about it is wrong. Every article leads with the variable aperture camera. Fair enough, that is a real upgrade, but there is a decision buried inside this launch, a launch strategy change that affects every single person watching this, whether you are buying a Pro model or not. And I have not seen one review connect all three pieces yet. We are going to do that here. The iPhone 18 Pro and Pro Max are landing in September 2026. That part is confirmed by multiple supply chain sources and by Bloomberg's Mark Gurman himself. I have been tracking every single leak since January, the chip specs, the camera changes, the display rumors, and the production validation reports that just came in. But the thing that keeps getting buried in every roundup is the launch structure itself, because Apple is not launching 4 iPhones this fall, they are launching 3, and that decision has consequences that ripple all the way down to what you actually do with your money in the next 12 months. Here's the situation. Apple is deviating from its standard iPhone launch timeline in 2026 and 2027. Instead of introducing 4 new iPhones in September 2026, the iPhone 18 lineup will come out across fall 2026 and spring 2027. So what does that mean in practice? The more expensive iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max will launch in September as usual, with Apple also planning to introduce the first foldable iPhone. You will get Apple's 3 most expensive iPhones in the fall: iPhone 18 Pro, iPhone 18 Pro Max, and the iPhone Fold, which could be upwards of $2,000 for a first-generation foldable from a company that took 3 years longer than Samsung to release one. I respect the restraint, I really do. But here is the part that matters for most of you. After the fall launch, Apple will introduce the standard iPhone 18, the iPhone 18e, and possibly a second-generation iPhone Air in spring 2027. If you typically buy a standard iPhone model, you will not be able to get a new one in the fall because Apple wants to save its less expensive iPhone models for early 2027. So if you were planning to spend $799 on a standard iPhone 18 this September, that phone does not exist yet. Your choice in September is Pro, Pro Max, or a folding phone that costs roughly the same as a used car payment. That is the decision Apple made, and I think it is worth asking why. Reportedly, Apple changed its release strategy to maximize revenue and profits from the Pro-branded iPhones, which is honest at least. I broke down Apple's full pricing history, why every Pro jump happens and what it means for buyers in a separate video. If you have not seen that one, the link is below. It gives this whole thing a lot more context. Okay, so you have decided the Pro is your move this fall. What are you actually getting? Let's start with the chip. The iPhone 18 and iPhone 18e could adopt Apple's upcoming 2-nanometer A20 chip. The iPhone Fold is expected to use the same A20 chip, while the iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max could get an A20 Pro variant. More transistors in a smaller space means up to 15% faster performance and 30% better power efficiency compared to the A19 chip. 15% faster, I know. On paper, that sounds like the kind of upgrade that makes you feel good on a spec sheet and does absolutely nothing for your Thursday afternoon. But the 30% power efficiency number, that one is real in your daily life. That is the number that turns "I need to find a charger at 6 p.m. into "I made it to 9 p.m. and I'm fine." And it compounds with the battery size. Leaked figures point to 5,100 to 5,200 milliamp hours, the largest capacity ever in an iPhone. 5,200 milliamp hours. The iPhone 17 Pro Max had 4,685 milliamp hours. You do the math. Actually, I already did. That is a meaningful jump. Combined with the efficiency gains from the 2-nanometer process, You are looking at the first iPhone that might genuinely last 2 full days for moderate users. Now, the camera, this is what everyone is leading with, and they are right to. Multiple sources say the main camera on both 18 Pro models will feature variable aperture, meaning the lens can let users adjust how much light it lets in based on shooting conditions. Variable aperture. This is a big deal, but it comes with an asterisk. Samsung had this on the Galaxy S9 back in 2018. They removed it by the S10. Huawei has tried it. The reason nobody has stuck with it is that the mechanical complexity is brutal on consistency, and when it fails at scale, it fails badly. So the real question is not whether Apple can build it. They clearly can. The question is whether they have solved the consistency problem that killed it everywhere else. And that we will not know until someone actually drops one, which, knowing YouTube, will happen on launch day. Here's the thing about the display that nobody is talking about. Apple is said to have unprecedentedly high requirements for brightness for the iPhone 18 display, requirements that at least one supplier is struggling with. One supplier struggling. That is the kind of detail that gets buried in Roundup paragraph 14 and deserves its own headline. Because if that spec does not land, the display story changes completely. Okay, and everything I just covered about the chip and the camera, that is honestly the second best story in this video. What is coming up next is the part I have not seen anyone fully connect. It involves the price, a pattern from Apple's Mac and iPad line, and a timeline that affects when you should actually buy. Let me give you the honest version of the price story. Apple raised the price of its Macs and iPads in June 2026, and they did not send a press release, they just did it. Quietly, one day the prices were one number, the next day they were a different number. Beyond new hardware, pricing is becoming an increasingly important topic. Apple recently raised prices on several MacBook and iPad models following higher memory costs, leading many analysts to believe the upcoming iPhone 18 Pro series may face similar pressure if component prices continue to rise. Now, here's where it gets interesting. Apple has already raised prices on most products except iPhones, and there is chatter that the new lineup might be $200 more expensive than the outgoing generation, $200 more, on top of an already premium Pro starting price. The iPhone 17 Pro started at $999 in the US. Add $200 and you are looking at $1,199 to start. That is not a phone price anymore. That is a laptop decision. And the counter argument from Apple's corner is real. Reputable analyst Ming-Chi Kuo claimed Apple may have a pleasant surprise for iPhone 18 buyers. Prices may not rise, meaning the phone may start at $799, just like the iPhone 17. Two analysts, two opposite predictions. Here's how I read it. The base iPhone 18, $799, possibly flat. The iPhone 18 Pro, this is where the increase lands, if it lands anywhere. And the foldable iPhone, pricing is still unclear, but the foldable has been quoted anywhere from $1,800 to $2,500, depending on who is talking. Anywhere from $1,800 to $2,500. That range alone tells you that nobody actually knows, which honestly is the most accurate thing I can say about Apple pricing right now. Let us get into the details that make the phone feel different to use. The dynamic island reports point to a smaller dynamic island made possible by Face ID components moving further under the display. One source claims this cutout could shrink by almost 50%, making the screen feel more immersive without changing how the feature works. Almost 50% smaller. If that lands, it is not a gimmick, it is a meaningful daily change. The dynamic island as it currently exists takes up real estate that many people have simply accepted. Shrink it by half and the phone suddenly feels different in the hand without changing a single dimension. Multiple rumors have suggested Apple is testing a deep red finish for the iPhone 18 Pro models. The red shade may be more of a dark cherry color, with a tinge of purple in it rather than a darker red shade. Dark cherry. It looks stunning in leaked dummy units, and it brings a sense of maturity to replace last year's carrot-like cosmic orange. Carrot-like cosmic orange, that is not my description. That is from a leak roundup. And they are not wrong. The C2 modem could feature millimeter wave 5G connectivity, and it will be closer in performance to the Qualcomm modem chips that it will replace. The C2 modem will support a privacy-focused, limit-precise location setting that cuts down on the location data available to mobile networks. Networks will not be able to determine exact location with the option, so instead of seeing location down to an address, carriers might instead see the neighborhood where a device is located. That last point is the one I want you to sit with for a second. Apple building privacy features directly into the modem silicon. That is not a software toggle, that is architecture, and it is the kind of move that does not get press, but that people look back on in 3 years and call the most important decision of this generation. So here's where I land. The iPhone 18 Pro is a strong upgrade. It is not a revolution. Apple's high-end iPhone Fold will get most of the attention in 2026, but there are some useful upgrades planned for the iPhone 18 Pro models, including Apple's first 2-nanometer chip with performance and efficiency improvements. There will not be much in the way of design updates, but the dynamic island could get smaller, battery life might get longer, and the rear camera could get a big update. That is the honest summary from the most reliable sources available. Smaller dynamic island, better battery, variable aperture camera, a 20 Pro chip, C2 modem with real privacy architecture. It is a complete phone. If you are on an iPhone 15 Pro or older, this is an upgrade that will feel significant across every single dimension. If you are on an iPhone 17 Pro, the honest answer is wait. The camera hardware is new, but nothing else is different enough to justify the trade-in math. Now, the open loop I set up at the top, the 3 pieces nobody has connected. Here they are. 1, Apple is only launching Pro models this fall. 2, Apple just raised Mac and iPad prices, and iPhone is next. 3, the standard iPhone 18, which is what most upgrade buyers actually want, does not arrive until spring 2027. Connect those 3 things, and the real story is not about any single feature. The real story is that Apple has restructured their entire fall launch to funnel you into higher-priced hardware, and the timing of the standard model delay is not an accident. That is the part nobody has said out loud. And look, I could be wrong. Ming-Chi Kuo says prices stay flat. Maybe they do, but I have watched Apple raise the price of every other product category in 2026, and I do not think iPhones are somehow immune. I did a full breakdown comparing iPhone 17 Pro performance benchmarks against the Samsung Galaxy S26 Ultra, camera, battery, real-world chip speed. If you have not seen it, it gives you the baseline you need to understand exactly how big the A20 jump actually is. Link is below. So here is my question for you. If the iPhone 18 Pro launches at $1,199, a $200 increase over the 17 Pro, is the variable aperture camera and the 2-nanometer chip enough to justify that jump for you? Or does that price finally push you to sit this generation out and wait for the spring iPhone 18? Drop it below.